Have you ever stopped to consider that the only reason you drag yourself out of bed in the morning, full of plans, bills, and anxieties, is the sweet, ignorant illusion that you actually have a choice about what happens next? Have you considered that, in reality, the movie of your life may have already been developed, edited, mixed, and watched by a superior consciousness staring at us with the boredom of someone who already knows the punchline to a bad joke before it even begins? This is the initial shock to the system, a necessary one, that we need to take in order to enter the complex mind of Jon Osterman, or as the world came to fear and worship him, Dr. Manhattan. We are not here to discuss the color of his suit, the minute differences between Alan Moore's graphic novel and Zack Snyder's film, or who would win in a bar fight. We are going to talk about the supreme anguish of being a god in a universe that apparently doesn't need gods and might actually run better on cold mechanics without them. We are going to dive into the metaphysics of this character because he is, without a doubt, the cruelest and most fascinating philosophical experiment in 20th century pop culture. And I say cruel because his existence rips away our vanity, the vanity of thinking we are special, unique, and the protagonists of the cosmos. He looks at humanity not with hatred, nor with love, but with the indifference of a geologist looking at sedimentary rock, or an entomologist observing a burning anthill. And that hurts our inflated egos. Follow my reasoning, because this trip is designed to dismantle your certainties and reconstruct them on a foundation that is more solid and far less delusional. To understand the glowing blue mind of this subject, we first need to kill, bury, and erect a tombstone over our linear perception of time. You and I live trapped in the dungeon of the now. The past is a faded memory that we subconsciously rewrite every time we access it, and the future is a fog of possibilities that gives us ulcers and anxiety. For us, time is a runaway train speeding in only one direction, dragging everything into oblivion. For Dr. Manhattan, time is a solid object. Think of a faceted crystal jewel or a frozen lake where everything is visible at once. He can walk to any point on that lake and look down. The ice is transparent. He sees his own birth, the fateful moment he is disintegrated in the intrinsic field, the moment he reassembles his nervous system, the death of his father, the Vietnam War he won single-handedly, and the present moment, all simultaneously. This isn't a superpower. It is an existential curse of the worst kind. Imagine living every heartbreak, every toothache, every moment of boredom, every embarrassment, and every orgasm of your life at the same time, all the time, in an eternal loop of simultaneity. This annihilates hope. Hope is a biological defense mechanism that relies fundamentally on ignorance of the future. If you know exactly what is going to happen, and you know you cannot change the script, there is no hoping for the best. There is only the fait accompli, absolute resignation. Here we dive headfirst into a heavy philosophical concept called Eternalism, or the block universe theory. In Manhattan's view, the past, the present, and the future are equally real and already exist, fixed in space-time like a static four-dimensional sculpture. There is no becoming. There is no Heraclitean flow where everything changes. Things simply are. This leads us straight to the problem of determinism, which is where things get ugly for our humanist side. We modern humans, addicted to control, love the idea of free will. We like to think that if you work hard, study, network, and wake up at 5 a.m., you can change your destiny. It's the self-help talk, the meritocracy, the American dream, the promise that you are the captain of your soul. Manhattan spits on that idea simply by existing. He delivers the line that should haunt your sleepless nights more than any horror movie. We are all puppets, Lori. I'm just a puppet who can see the strings. Perceive the abyssal, almost cosmic gravity of that statement. The most powerful being in the known universe, capable of dismantling Soviet tanks with a thought, rearranging matter at a subatomic level, teleporting people to Mars with a snap of his fingers, and walking on the surface of the sun, states categorically that he has no choice. He does what he does because he has already done it. He is omnipotent in execution, but impotent in decision. He has all the power of quantum physics, but no metaphysical freedom. Even when his vision of the future is momentarily obscured by tachyons, that static interference caused by Ozymandias's machinations, He doesn't act to change the course of the river. He just follows the current, aware that even his confusion is part of the pre-established script. Does this sound depressing? Perhaps, if you are a naive optimist who needs fairy tales to sleep. But it is a dose of brutal realism that we avoid at all costs. Society sells us the idea that we are protagonists, heroes of our own epic journey. The metaphysics of Watchmen, through Manhattan's apathy, tells us, dial it down. You are a cluster of subatomic particles following immutable physical laws and reacting to chemical and electrical stimuli. There is nothing mystical in his view, and it is exactly this scientific materialism, taken to its logical extreme, that makes it terrifying. For him, a live human being and a dead human being have the same number of particles. The only difference is the momentary structural organization. Morality, good and evil, these are human constructs, social tools to handle chaos and prevent us from killing each other over scarce resources. For a hydrogen atom, there is no sin. For a spiral galaxy, there is no social justice. Manhattan has adopted the perspective of the cosmos, and from the point of view of the cosmos, our ideological wars, our tragic loves, and our internet cancellations are irrelevant. This is why he progressively distances himself from humanity. His apathy, which many readers and viewers mistake for villainy, arrogance, or psychopathic coldness, is actually the only logical conclusion for someone who sees reality naked and raw, without the anesthetic filter of emotions. If you saw the structure of the universe as it is, mathematical, precise, inevitable, and vast, human concern over geopolitical borders or marital fidelity would seem as ridiculous as two ants fighting over a grain of sugar on an infinite sidewalk. He goes to Mars not to rule, not to build a galactic empire, but to sit and contemplate the dust, the silence, the static perfection of a world without the confusing, contradictory, and noisy screaming of human emotions. He is tired of our mess, of our inability to see the obvious, of our insistence on creating problems where only equations exist. And who can blame him? We are a noisy, violent species obsessed with meanings we invented ourselves to avoid facing the void. He has transcended this. He has become Nietzsche's Übermensch, the overman, but without the will to power. Only with the will to be, to exist in conformity with inert matter. Now let's be honest, surgical and politically incorrect here, regardless of whose feelings get hurt. Most of us wouldn't last 5 minutes in his skin without going completely insane or begging for death. Our sanity depends on our vital lies. We need to believe there is a greater purpose, that someone is in charge, that good defeats evil in the end, and that our suffering has a why. Manhattan shows us a mechanical universe, a clock without a watchmaker, where the gears turn because they must turn, without caring if they crush fingers or entire civilizations in the process. He dismantles traditional theology without saying an offensive word, merely by existing. He is God. Yes, he has the attributes of one, but he is a God who doesn't care. He won't save you because you prayed or because you are a good person. He might save you if the equation of the moment requires the matter of your body to remain organized to fulfill a future causality, but not out of love, mercy, or justice. The idea of a personal God who cares about your football team's score, your bank account balance, or your back pain is laughable given the cosmic and temporal scale on which he operates. But hold on. Don't throw everything away thinking the message here is jump off a bridge because nothing matters and nihilism won. The genius of Alan Moore's writing and the depth of this character twist the knife just when everything seems lost and meaningless, in that crucial moment on Mars with Laurie Juspechik. Dr. Manhattan's passive and almost depressive nihilism is confronted by something that he, with all his omniscience and power to transmute elements, took a long time to understand, and which had to be screamed at him by a flawed, traumatized human, the thermodynamic miracle. Stop everything you are doing and imagine the statistical probability of your existence. Think about this seriously, not as cheap self-help, but as mathematics. For you to be here consuming this content right now, your parents had to meet at the exact moment, among billions of other people, their parents too, and so on, going back generations and generations, surviving world wars, the Black Death, ice ages, natural disasters, prehistoric predators, all the way back to the first amoeba that decided to divide in the primordial soup billions of years ago. The chance of your specific DNA combination occurring, the chance of that specific sperm fertilizing that specific egg in that specific microsecond, is so astronomically small that it is virtually zero. Statistically, it is impossible for you to be here. The universe tends toward entropy, toward disorder, toward dissolution. Matter wants to spread out, cool down, and stop. But against all logical odds and against the universe's own laziness, matter organized itself, fought against entropy, created consciousness, created you, and now that organized matter is thinking about itself. When Manhattan realizes this, analyzing the unlikely chain of events that led to Laurie's birth, the product of a relationship between the comedian and the original Silk Spectre, something unthinkable and chaotic, the switch flips in his head. He is ready to let Earth burn under nuclear bombs when he understands that human life, however brief, dirty, violent, and insignificant it may be on the cosmic scale, is an incomparable statistical miracle. He says something that echoes like thunder. Thermodynamic miracles. Events with odds against so astronomical they're effectively impossible, like oxygen turning into gold. I long to observe such a thing, and yet, in each human coupling, 1,000 million sperm vie for a single egg. Multiply those odds by countless generations, distilled into your mother's specific form. The probability of your existing at all is so staggering as to be the same as turning air into gold. The chaotic complexity of each individual is what gives value to existence. It is not a divine value, given by a bearded old man in the clouds. It is an intrinsic, mathematical, rare value. Gold is valuable to us because it is rare in the Earth's crust. Intelligent, self-aware life is the rarest thing in the known universe. Each person is a thermodynamic event that has never happened before and will never happen again in the same way. This is motivational, in a raw, realistic, sugar-free way. You aren't special because you have a magical soul or a grand destiny written in the stars. You are special because you are an unlikely accident that went right against the will of the inert universe. You are the lottery the cosmos won against itself. This should give you massive freedom, an immediate relief in your chest. If there is no divine script watching you to judge your every step, and if the universe is vast and indifferent, then the responsibility of giving meaning to your life is entirely, solely, and exclusively yours. Manhattan, trapped in his deterministic and omniscient view, deep down, envies our ignorance. He envies the fact that, for us, the future is a blank page, a mystery to be unveiled. We don't see the puppet strings, and you know what? Thank God, or the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that we don't. Blindness regarding destiny is what allows us to feel passion, fear, surprise, hope. Surprise is a luxury that the most powerful being in the universe does not have and never will. He will never feel the butterflies of a first kiss, the adrenaline of a gamble, the shock of unexpected news, because he has already seen the kiss, the dating, the marriage, the divorce, and the funeral before he even touches lips. We have this privilege of uncertainty. Finitude and doubt are the spices that make life swallowable and sometimes delicious. Dr. Manhattan teaches us, via the negative path, that absolute power is an absolute prison. The more you know, the less free you are, because options narrow until only the single immutable truth of facts remains. Total knowledge eliminates the possibility of choice. We, in our human smallness, full of flaws, doubts, neuroses, and incomplete information, are the true free beings. Our ignorance is our blessing in disguise. We can err. Dr. Manhattan cannot err. He merely acts according to the immutable script of the cosmos. We can defy logic. We can act irrationally out of love or hate. We can sacrifice ourselves for a stupid ideal, and that is fascinating. Human irrationality is what saves us from being predictable biological robots. So, when you look at the starry sky and feel small, useless, or irrelevant in the face of immensity, remember the final lesson of the blue giant. Irrelevance is liberating. No one is writing your mistakes in a cosmic notebook to punish you after death. The universe is not conspiring against you. It doesn't even know you exist. It doesn't even know it exists. And precisely because of that, every moment of real connection, Every conscious breath, every time you overcome a difficulty, is a victory of order against chaos, of life against heat-death. You are the exception to the rule. You are a walking thermodynamic miracle. Do not expect a superhero to come save you. In Watchmen, the heroes are psychotics, delusional fascists like Rorschach, or bored gods like Osterman. Salvation does not come from above. It does not come from a flying cape or an alien intervention. Salvation comes from the hard recognition of reality. Reality is cold, indifferent, and without a predefined moral script. But that is where we operate. Being an adult, philosophically speaking, is looking into that abyss Manhattan sees, and instead of despairing, crying, or fleeing to Mars to build glass castles that shatter, deciding to build something here and now, in the mud, with the imperfect people standing next to you. The ferocious critique the character makes of our society, which serves as a slap in the face, is that we are addicted to narratives of external salvation. We want the government to solve it, technology to solve it, the Messiah to solve it. But when we are faced with real power, like Manhattan's, we see that he does not solve human problems, because human problems are, ultimately, of an internal and ethical nature, not physical. Could he end world hunger by transforming desert sand into protein? He could, in the blink of an eye. But that wouldn't end greed, poor distribution, corrupt politics, or the power structure that generated the hunger in the first place. He realizes that physically intervening does not cure humanity's metaphysical disease. We are the architects of our own doom, and therefore we must mandatorily be the architects of our own redemption. The colloquial and direct tone I am using here is intentional to tell you, stop outsourcing your existential responsibility. Doctor, Manhattan is the definitive proof that having it all time, all power, all knowledge, does not mean being happy or being complete. On the contrary, he lost his humanity as he gained the universe. He became an alienated observer of his own existence. We, stuck down here, fighting with mortgages, diseases, traffic, and broken hearts, have something he irretrievably lost. The ability to feel the passage of time as something new, fresh, and full of potential. Jon Osterman's tragedy is that he knows too much, and knowing too much paralyzed his ability to feel. He looks at his ex-girlfriend aging and sees, at the same time, the young woman he fell in love with, and the corpse she will become. How do you love someone like that? How do you surrender to the moment if the moment is just a frame in a movie you've seen 1,000 times? It is impossible. That is why selective ignorance, forgetting, and uncertainty are fundamental to human happiness. Forgetting is a survival tool as important as memory. At the end of his journey on Earth, having understood the value of life through Laurie, Manhattan does not stay on Mars lamenting. He decides to leave for another galaxy, perhaps to try creating life himself, finally assuming an active role in creation, inspired by the human complexity he once despised. He evolves. And if even a deterministic God can change his mind and evolve, so can you. Therefore, the next time you feel stuck in a dull routine, thinking your life is determined, that nothing changes, and that you have no choice, remember that this is just a psychological sensation, not an ontological certainty for us. Use uncertainty to your advantage. Determinism might be real in fundamental physics. Perhaps we really are complex machines reacting to stimuli. But the complexity of the system is so great, with so many hidden variables, that it is impossible to predict the practical result. In real life, the game is open. Life is unpredictable. And in that unpredictability lies your only chance to be something more than just intelligent dust wandering in a vacuum. Dr. Manhattan lives in an eternal spoiler, a movie on repeat. You live in suspense, in a thriller, in an adventure. Suspense is much more fun, much more engaging. That is why, in the end, he envies us. Because we manage to love in a hostile world. We manage to cry for reasons that aren't logical. We create emotional chaos, and chaos is the only thing that breaks the monotony of perfect order. Be critical of the world, as a philosopher should be. Do not accept easy answers from mass religions or internet gurus. Do not accept, it's always been this way. But also, do not fall into the trap of absolute and corrosive cynicism. Cynicism is lazy. It is the exit for intellectual cowards. It is very easy to cross your arms and say, nothing matters, we are just dust. The hard thing, the brave thing, the truly heroic act is to look at an empty universe without gods and without guarantees and say, this matters because I decided it matters. Dr. Manhattan needed to leave the Milky Way to understand the value of a human smile. You don't need to go that far. Just look to the side. The beauty of the philosophy of Watchmen isn't in seeing superheroes as cool or role models. They are pathetic, broken, and dangerous. The beauty lies in seeing that, in a world where gods exist and are indifferent, humanity needs to grow up, mature, and take the reins of its own destiny. The doomsday clock is always minutes to midnight. Nuclear fear, environmental fear, economic fear, the fear of artificial intelligence. There will always be a new fear. Jon Osterman stopped being afraid, and with that, stopped being human. Fear is a vital sign. Fear indicates that you have something to lose. And if you have something to lose, it is because you hold something of inestimable value in your hands. Embrace that value. Embrace your fragility and your mortality. They are the only things separating you from being a cold, destructive, solitary force of nature. Dr. Manhattan's metaphysics works like a black mirror. When we look at him, we see what we would like to have: unlimited power, immortality, absolute knowledge. But if we look closely, we see the terrible price of that: absolute loneliness and the loss of meaning. It is infinitely better to be a mortal surrounded by other troubled mortals, trying to find warmth in a cold night, than to be a solitary god wandering through outer space. So, what is your excuse today for not living fully? The universe owes you nothing. The stars do not align for you. Karma does not exist in the way you were told, but you are here. Unlikely, absurd, complex, and alive. That is enough. Make it count, not because there is a divine plan, but precisely because there is no plan other than the one you draw yourself. Write your own script before the clock strikes midnight and the screen goes dark. That is true freedom. And it is the only freedom we will have for the duration of this brief and unlikely miracle called you.